Ezekiel's story takes us back to one of the hardest seasons in Israel's history. The people of Jerusalem had been defeated by the Babylonians. Their temple was destroyed, their city burned, and many were forced into exile, far from the land they loved. Ezekiel was among them, living as a captive by the Kebar River in Babylon. Ezekiel had once trained to be a priest, but with no temple left to serve in, that dream seemed impossible. Yet in the middle of this hopelessness, God had a surprising plan for him. One day, Ezekiel saw a vision unlike anything he could have imagined. He looked up and saw a mighty storm cloud, glowing with fire and flashing with lightning. Inside the cloud were extraordinary living creatures with wings and brilliant light. Above them was a great throne shining like crystal, and on that throne was the appearance of a man radiant with fire and glory. It was the presence of the Lord. Overcome, Ezekiel fell on his face in awe. There, God called him to be a prophet. He told Ezekiel that he would speak God's words to the people in exile. Whether they listened or ignored him didn't matter. Ezekiel's mission was to deliver God's truth faithfully. From that moment on, Ezekiel's life changed. His ministry was filled with powerful visions and dramatic acts that carried God's message. One of the most famous visions was the Valley of Dry Bones. In this vision, Ezekiel stood in a valley covered with lifeless bones. God asked him, "Can these bones live?" Ezekiel answered carefully, "Lord, only you know." Then God told him to prophesy. As Ezekiel spoke, the bones rattled and came together. Flesh and skin formed on them, and finally the breath of life filled them. They stood on their feet as a living army. This vision showed that even though Israel felt hopeless and dead, God could bring them back to life. He promised to restore his people and breathe his spirit into them again. Another vision was just as powerful. Ezekiel saw water flowing from the temple of God. At first, it was only a small trickle, but as it flowed further, it became a deep, rushing river. Everywhere the river went, life appeared. Trees grew with fruit and leaves that brought healing, and the water was filled with fish. This vision reminded the people that God's presence brings renewal and blessing, not only for Israel, but for the whole world. Sometimes Ezekiel's messages weren't visions, but dramatic acts. God asked him to build a small model of Jerusalem under siege, to lay on his side for many days, and even to remain silent until the moment came to speak. These unusual acts made the people notice him and think carefully about the message God was sending. Through all of this, Ezekiel carried two main themes: judgment and hope. Judgment because Israel's unfaithfulness had led to the destruction of Jerusalem, but hope because God had not abandoned his people. He promised them a future. He told them he would give them a new heart and a new spirit, taking away their hearts of stone and replacing them with hearts that were alive and tender toward him. Ezekiel also spoke of a coming shepherd, a leader who would care for the people with justice and compassion. Toward the end of his book, Ezekiel described an incredible vision of restoration. He saw a new temple, a renewed land, and God's glory returning to dwell among his people. The name of the city would be "The Lord is There." It was a powerful reminder to exiles who had once thought God had left them behind. Ezekiel's story is unusual, sometimes even strange, with its vivid images and dramatic moments. But at its heart, it is a story of God's presence and God's faithfulness. Even when life feels broken or hopeless, God is still near. He can breathe life into what feels like dry bones. He can replace a heart of stone with a heart alive to him. No matter how far we feel from home, God promises to be with his people.